Okay, welcome back. Hope you had a great weekend. Today we're continuing our review of our latest RBT practice exam. We're going through the next set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. If you're looking for our proven study materials, please check out btexamreview.com. We have 3 practice exams, a task list study guide, and of course our combo pack. Questions, comments, please let us know. Work hard, study hard. Let's get to our questions. Question 1. One Saturday a month, all the siblings in the Green family do yard work. Their dad places 5 different tools in front of the siblings. Each sibling chooses a tool until there are none left, and no tool can be chosen twice. What type of preference assessment does this most closely resemble? This kind of sounds like a riddle, but it's not. It's a pretty straightforward preference assessment question when you start to break it down. It's not traditional in the sense of you think preference assessment with one learner and different stimuli. It's presented in a different way, but the principles stay the same. So remember, you're looking for a preference assessment. So start to think all the different preference assessments we have: single choice, paired choice, multiple stimulus, and then free operant. In this case, we have 5 different tools placed in front of the siblings. Now, what is our rule for preference assessments? Well, we always want to identify how many stimulus or stimuli we are assessing at a time. If it's 1, it's typically single choice. If it's 2, it's going to be paired choice or forced choice. If it's 3 or more, it's typically going to be multiple stimulus. In this case, we're assessing 5 at once, so we're looking at some sort of multiple stimulus assessment. And what happens is each sibling chooses a tool until there are none left, and no tool can be chosen twice. Meaning once a tool is chosen, it's taken away and not replaced. So if you have a multiple stimulus assessment, when one stimulus gets chosen and removed permanently and nothing replaces it, what do you call that? Well, it's not single choice or paired choice because we're dealing with 5, so 3 or more. It's not multiple stimulus with replacement because these are not being replaced. It's going to be multiple stimulus without replacement. We're taking our 5 different tools. Once a tool is picked, it's gone for good, and then we're picking until they're all gone. So it's not your traditional breakdown of a preference assessment, but all the principles stay the same for a multiple stimulus without replacement. It takes a little analysis to get there, but if you do all your work in the question, it's actually a pretty straightforward question. So what type of preference assessment does it closely resemble? Well, a multiple stimulus without replacement. Katie is trying to give a presentation at the front of the class, but Glenn keeps tapping his pencil. Each time Katie sends a mean look at Glenn, Glenn smiles and taps the pencil more. Katie's mean look functions as relative to tapping the pencil. So what does Katie's mean look function as? And remember, it's relative to tapping the pencil. And that's one of the keys for behavior questions and reinforcement questions and punishment questions. You're identifying what behavior you're looking at in what context. So we're looking at Katie's mean looks relative to Glenn tapping the pencil. Well, we know Katie sends a mean look at Glenn, so she's adding the mean look, so it's positive. And then does that mean look stop Glenn from tapping the pencil and smiling? Well, no. Once Katie sends the mean look, once she adds the mean look, Glenn just starts doing it more and more and more. This is attention-based behavior, right? What happens when you give attention-based behavior attention? It increases. So is Katie punishing this behavior? No, she's reinforcing it, because by adding the mean look, she's reinforcing Glenn's need for attention, so Glenn's behavior increases. The simple way to break down reinforcement punishment questions is piece by piece. You ask yourself, was a stimulus added or removed? In this case, the mean look was added, so it's positive. Did the behavior increase or decrease? In this case, Glenn smiles and taps the pencil more. His behavior increased, so added positive, increased reinforcement. Katie's mean look is simply positive reinforcement for Glenn tapping the pencil. Your client is afraid to talk to strangers. This becomes an issue when he needs to ask for help at the grocery store or ask for a certain haircut. What would be the most effective way for Glenn's parents to program for grocery store generalization after teaching Glenn how to ask for help? Okay, kind of a trickier question. It's a little more technical, but you can do it. How are we going to get there? We're going to break down the question, not immediately jump to answer choices. We're going to break the question down. We are looking for the most effective way for Glenn's parents to program for grocery store generalization. So our focus is generalization in the grocery store, meaning we need Glenn to engage in the skill in the grocery store. That's what generalization means. You're taking that skill you learned and then generalizing it and taking it to other places. So we're worried about grocery store generalization after teaching Glenn how to ask for help. So how can we generalize asking for help to the grocery store? A, when Glenn is able to ask his mom for help, he should be able to ask for help from his dad as well. Does generalizing to his dad generalize to the grocery store? It does not. It just generalizes to his dad. It's a good skill to have, but we need to get it to the grocery store. Going from mom to dad is not getting us any closer to the grocery store. B, Glenn's mom could ask the attendant at the grocery store to praise Glenn when asking for help. Good. If we get ahead of it, we tell the attendant, hey, when my son asks you for help, please provide praise. Well, now we're taking someone in the grocery store, a naturally occurring stimulus in the environment, and adding reinforcement to Glenn's behavior. This is a great way to go about it. Okay? Behavior is maintained by reinforcement, and to generalize, we need the natural environment to start reinforcing our behavior. What about C? Mom could take Glenn to different haircut places and have Glenn ask for different haircuts. C is the one meant to throw you off because the question does mention haircuts in the beginning, but what you're looking for is grocery store. We're not worried about haircut places right now. That's why you need to be very careful and make sure you understand what the question wants you to find, because they give you information that sometimes is just throwing you off. And then D, the best way will be to bring Glenn to the store until he starts asking for help. The worst way to program for generalization is just brute force, hoping it generalizes, hoping eventually Glenn asks for help. We need to actually program for this. So again, more of a difficult question, maybe a 7 or 8, but if you break it down, there's really only a couple answers you might want to choose from, A or B, and then when you really break it down, A doesn't have anything to do with the grocery store. Only B does. And in B, we're using the natural environment to reinforce Glenn's behavior. So to program for grocery store generalization, Glenn's mom could ask the attendant at the grocery store to praise Glenn when asking for help. Before moving into his college dorm, Lewis's parents walked him through the steps to making ramen noodles in the microwave. At one point, Lewis's dad unplugged the microwave before Lewis demonstrated the different steps. The dad is most likely using what? Kind of an ambiguous question. So we're looking at a chaining question. And in this case, we know Lewis's parents walked him through the steps making ramen noodles in the microwave. So whatever chain they used, it's got steps. And then at some point, Lewis's dad unplugged the microwave before Lewis could go make the ramen noodles. So Lewis's dad has changed the chain by altering a step. So when you change a behavior chain by altering the step, what do we call that? A, forward chaining. Well, forward chaining is just what they've been doing potentially, right? They just take the steps and teach them as is. Same as backwards chaining. You're just taking the steps step by step and teaching as is. You're not changing the chain. You're not interrupting the chain. You're not altering the chain. You've got steps. You're teaching the steps. In this case, Lewis's dad changed one of the steps. What about total task chaining? Again, total task chaining, you're just teaching the full behavior, but as required with the required steps. If you look at D, behavior chain interruption, that most closely resembles what Lewis's dad did. With behavior chain interruption strategy, we take a behavior chain that we've been teaching, typically mastered, and we alter one of the steps. By unplugging the microwave before Lewis can go make ramen noodles, it changes what Lewis has to do to meet the response requirements. He now has to deal with the unplugged microwave. Instead of just putting ramen in the bowl, putting water in the bowl, putting the ramen in the microwave and heating it up, he now has to add or change his behavior to deal with the unplugged microwave, which is why we use behavior chain interruption. Because as we know, real life behavior chains are never really perfect. Things happen and we have to adjust. So Lewis's dad is smart because they've taught him the steps to make noodles in the microwave, but now he's added these different steps. What if the microwave is unplugged? What are you going to do to adjust? So the dad is really using a behavior chain interruption strategy by unplugging the microwave before Lewis can demonstrate the steps. What does the token exchange ratio mean in terms of a token economy? You might hear token exchange ratio in your work. You all know what a token economy is, hopefully. If not, we need to go back and review our token economy basics. And if we have a token exchange, what are we doing? Well, we're earning our tokens, and the whole idea is we earn tokens, and then we exchange them for backup reinforcers. It basically functions as money. You earn money, you exchange them for goods. In a token economy, you earn tokens, and you exchange them for your backup goods. So what does the token exchange ratio mean? Is it A, the number of responses required to earn tokens? A is going to be your reinforcement schedule. How many responses you're required, how much time it takes. It's not going to be the exchange ratio. B, this is the number of tokens required to earn reinforcers. Yes, if it takes me 5 tokens to earn 1 backup reinforcer, that's my exchange ratio, 5 to 1. C, this is the number of tokens given per correct response. No, because this is going to be the exchange. You've earned the tokens. Now, how many do you need to exchange in order to earn your backup reinforcer? And then D, this is the number of tokens removed when using response cost. Again, no. Typically, response cost, you're only removing 1 token, but that is not how the token exchange ratio applies in this setting. The token exchange ratio says, you must give me this many tokens to acquire this backup reinforcer. And if you have a lot of different backup reinforcers, each one might have different values, changing that ratio. But the token exchange ratio simply states this is the number of tokens required to earn these reinforcers. I have 180 students across all the classes I teach. During finals week, I have 2 days to grade all assignments and papers. At what rate do I need to grade to get my grading done? Okay, a rate question. As always, on the exam, you might have to find totals, you might have to find averages, you might have to find rates. It's basic math, but it is math. So you still do need to practice to be sure you can do it fluently. What is our formula for rate? Rate is simply frequency over time. So you take your frequency and you divide it by your time. In this case, we have 180 students. That's my frequency. My time is 2 days. So at what rate do I need to grade to get my grading done? Well, let's start simple and just put 180 is our frequency and divide that by 2, we get 90. So if we do 90 students per day, we'll get the grading done. So that's our A. That's answer A. Do we pick A and just move on? No, we read every single answer choice. Because B, 3.75 students per hour, well, if we have 2 days, we have 48 hours. If we take our frequency, 180, divided by our time, 48 hours, 3.75 students per hour works as well. And then what about C? 180 students per 2 days. Sure, if I can do 180 students in 2 days, I'll get my grading done. So 90 students per day works, 3.75 students per hour works, and 180 students per 2 days work. So really, all the above is going to help me get my grading done. Got to work through every single problem and check every single answer choice. We never rush. We never pick the first answer we like because we want to get it done with. That's what leads to mistakes, and that's what leads to you failing. If you go slow and break down every single answer choice, your chances of passing are going to increase dramatically. You're leading a group of learners through different gross motor skills. You say, copy me, and then jump up and down. You say, do this, and then flap your arms. The learners are engaging in what? Actually, kind of a tricky question. It's a more technical and more deep. So we're looking at the learners, right? The learners are doing what? Well, the learners are going through gross motor skills. You say, copy me, and jump up and down. So learners jump up and down. You say, do this and flap your arms. The learners do this and flap their arms. Are they engaging in imitation? Not technically. With imitation needs to occur without a verbal stimulus, without a verbal prompt. Okay. And that's a little more high level than maybe you need to get, but it's good to know. What they're actually doing is receptive instructions, because what you're telling them, copy me, is just an instruction. Do this is just an instruction. They're not actually imitating, they're following your instructions. So by copying you after you say copy me and doing this after saying doing this, they're engaging in receptive instructions. The learners are not engaging in shaping, and the learners are not engaging in modeling. You might be, okay, but all you're really doing is giving receptive instructions. If I say do this and they go do it, they followed instructions. Imitation would be you jumping up and down and then the kids jumping up and down. That's pure imitation. In this case, you've given instructions and they follow the instructions. So the learners are actually engaging in receptive instructions. Ricky sets a timer for 3 minutes, tells the client the timer is starting, and then proceeds to begin working on his lesson plan. When the timer goes off, Ricky looks up, sees the client not engaging in the target behavior, and reinforces him. He always sets a timer for 3 minutes. This is a what? You will not see a question like this on the exam, at least to this level. But this is a great question because it tests 3 different bits of knowledge you need to have for your RBT exam. In order to tackle it, we need to break it down systematically, which you should do for every question. So first, let's start with the last sentence. He always sets the timer for 3 minutes. If we always are setting the timer for 3 minutes, if we're always requiring the same amount of responses, is that fixed or is that variable? Well, that's fixed, and you know that from your basic reinforcement schedules. If your basic reinforcement schedule never changes, it's going to be fixed. If it's on an average, it's variable. This never changes, it's fixed. So we have that first part. Then, when Ricky set the timer for 3 minutes, when the timer goes off, Ricky looks up. What type of measurement do we know where we only observe the behavior at the end of each interval? Is that a partial interval, whole interval, or momentary time sampling? Well, that's momentary time sampling. With momentary time sampling, we set an interval. At the end of that interval, we look up, is the behavior occurring? Is it not? So far, we know he's using fixed. We know he's using a momentary time sampling procedure. And then if you look at your answer, you know it's going to be our DRO. Why is it DRO? Well, if the client is not engaging in the target behavior, he reinforces him. So Ricky sees the client not engaging in target behavior and reinforces the client. The DRO, we reinforce in the absence of a behavior, which is what Ricky is doing. So Ricky has a fixed 3 minutes on a momentary sampling schedule using a DRO. He's going to have a fixed momentary DRO. Again, hard question. You're not likely to see something that's difficult on the exam, but it tests your knowledge of 3 different things at once. If you can answer this question, it's a really, really good sign. And then finally, the most important ethical rule for RBTs to follow is what? What is the number 1 ethical rule? No dual relationships, ensure competence before doing something, do no harm, and no conflicts of interest. Well, the most important ethical rule is do no harm. Do no harm is what leads to not engaging in dual relationships, not having conflicts of interest, and us ensuring competence. Do no harm is the number 1 rule RBTs need to follow. Fantastic. Thank you for watching. Check out btexamreview.com. Please like and subscribe. Work hard. Study hard. See you soon.